Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Gandora deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Izzy. And this deck is an extremely powerful OTK deck that summons out one of the most nostalgic monsters in the game, Gandora, the Dragon of Destruction. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come for our notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting his signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Gandora, the Dragon of Destruction. This card is our main boss monster that has a really powerful effect. This card cannot be special summoned, but during your main phase, you can pay half your life points to destroy and remove from play all other cards on the field. And this card gains 300 attack points for each card destroyed this way. But you send this card to the graveyard during the end phase of the turn this card was summoned. And this card is actually very easy to tribute summon out in this deck because we have a lot of monsters in this build that easily special summon themselves out to your side of the field, then using them to be able to tribute summon out Gandora to be able to go in for game. We then play a single copy of Gandora X, the Dragon of Demolition. This card is really good just as a one-of in the build with a really cool ability that when this card is normal or special summoned from your hand, you can destroy as many other monsters on the field as possible. And if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the highest original attack on the field among those destroyed monsters, your choice if it's a tie, and then this card gains attack equal to the damage inflicted to your opponent by this effect. And once per turn, during your end phase, half your life points. This card is really good just as a one-of in the build, just to help you just OTK and have an additional Gandora in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Gizmek Orochi. Gizmek Orochi is really good as a 3-of because it's very easy to special summon this card out to your side of the field. As if this card is in your hand or grave, quick effect, you can banish the top 8 cards of your deck face down to be able to special summon this card to your side of the field. You can also banish 3 cards from your X deck face down and then target 1 face-up monster on the field and destroy it, but you can only use 1 effect this card per turn and only once that turn. We then play 3 copies of Grandmanju Da Iza. This card is crazy powerful in the deck and is basically our normal summon boss monster besides our copy of Gandora. This card is so easy to summon out to our side of the field. Just by normal summoning it out, you're going to get an absolutely massive boss monster that has the effect that this card's attack and defense are each equal to the number of your banished cards times 400, and that's what this deck focuses around, is getting as many cards banished as possible to help you go in for game. We then play 3 copies of Eater of Millions. Eater of Millions is another one of those monsters that can special summon itself to your side of the field, so you can tribute out your copy of Gandora. This card's ability cannot be normal summoner set, it must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 5 or more cards from your hand, field, or your X deck face down. And this card gains 100 attack and defense points for each face down banished card, and this card cannot be tributed nor used for material for a fusion, synchro, XZ, or XZ summon, but you can use it for a link summon. This card also has a crazy powerful effect that once per turn, at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, banish an opponent's monster face down, helping you out your opponent's boss monsters. We then play 3 copies of Necroface. Necroface is really powerful as a 3-of in the build because if this card is normal summon, you shuffle all banished cards back in the deck, basically resetting the duel for this deck. And this card also has the ability, this card gains 100 attack for each card shuffled back into the main deck by this effect. But the really cool effect that we look for on this card is if this card is banished, each player banishes the top 5 cards of their deck or their entire deck if less than 5, to be able to just get rid of a bunch of cards and have a bunch of cards banished for cards like Grandmanju. And it's just really cool to be able to use this card to disrupt your opponent's plays and get the exact card that your opponent might need banished face down. We then play 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir. Fenrir is just really good to special summon itself to your side of the field so that you can tribute it to summon out your copy of Gandora. Plus this card does search an additional copy of itself, which is really good, and also it spot removes cards off the field, which is really good. We then play 3 copies of Shifter. Shifter is really good in this build as well as the only hand trap that we really play in the deck, and this card just wins games on its own because if you have no cards in the graveyard, quick effect, you can send this card in your hand to the grave, and until the end of the next turn, any card sent to the grave is banished instead, which is a really powerful effect, especially if we go second, to be able to drop this card to basically just end the game and help us go in for game on the follow-up because there's already going to be a bunch of cards banished. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Card Destruction. Card Destruction is hilarious in this deck because we have something on our side of the field, like a copy of Fisher or activated a copy of Shifter. Everything that would go to the graveyard off this card's effect is just going to get banished instead, which is hilarious. It's very easy to deck your opponent out in this build, and this card actually helps out a lot to do that, especially to get a bunch of cards banished when you activate something like Shifter first and then activate this card, or have your copy of Dimensional Fisher already activated, and then you activate this card. We then play 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. We have a lot of dark targets in the deck to help us dig into the deck for the exact card that we need, so we can get to our copy of Gandora. We then play 3 copies of Trade-In. Trade-In's really good in the deck to be able to use to help us just dig into the deck for the exact card that we need. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Desires. Pot of Desires just really fuels Grandmanju.exe, which is why we play this card as a 3-of in the build, and we play so many of the cards that we need at 3 anyway, so this card is just really good at helping us dig into the deck for the exact cards that we need. We then play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Poly is definitely a 3-of in the build, just to break your opponent's board if we do go second in this build, to basically just break your opponent's board, summon out an awesome boss monster to our side of the field to help us go in for game. Super Poly is extremely powerful in the deck and just really cool to be able to play. We then play 3 copies of Dimensional Fisher. Fisher is a great floodgate to be able to play in the deck because this card has a really cool ability. Any monster sent to the graveyard is banished instead, which is such a cool ability just to deal with your opponent's monsters and just basically get them banished instead of going to the graveyard, because a lot of decks right now are very graveyard reliant, and this card really messes up your opponent's plays while also helping us get a bunch of cards banished so our monsters can get absolutely massive to help us go in for game. So, that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing 3, and we're actually going to play Guess That Card with these 3 traps. So I'm actually going to lay these 3 traps face down. They're the exact same card, and we're going to play Guess That Card and get you guys to comment down below what you think these 3 cards are. They're really cool, they're really spicy, and I bet you guys are never going to guess what these 3 cards are. So let's go ahead and reveal these cards and see if you guys got it right, but definitely comment down below what you think these 3 cards are. But before we do, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of notification squad, because we're on the road to 100K subscribers and we're almost there. So let's go ahead and check these 3 cards out in 3, 2, 1, and it's going to be 3 copies of an awesome tech card, and it's going to be 3 copies of Trickstar Reincarnation. I bet you guys did not get that one right. This is a really spicy tech card in the deck that banishes your opponent's entire hand, and if you do, they draw the same number of cards, which is such a cool ability just to basically get a bunch of cards banished and disrupt your opponent's plays. If we do go first, we can set this card out to our side of the field. Our opponent will draw, we flip this card up, and we banish basically 6 cards from their hand right off the bat, which is absolutely broken. And if you activate this card at multiples, you can very easily deck your opponent out, and it's such a cool card to be able to play in the deck to basically just deal with your opponent so that they're going to have all their plays disrupted, and it's just going to mess up a bunch of their plays, especially if they're playing 1-ofs and they draw into those 1-ofs in their first turn. You can flip this card up and basically banish those cards, which is just absolutely broken, but this card is really good as a 3-of in the build. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get in to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with a single copy of Typhon. Typhon's definitely a one-of in the build because it's so easy to summon this card if we're going second and our opponent swarms the board. We then play a single copy of AA Zeus. AA Zeus is really good in the deck as a one-of, just in case we need to board wipe the field. We then play a single copy of Underworld Gods. This card just outs towers like boss monsters, which is really good to be able to do to instantly out really powerful monsters their opponent might be playing. We then play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code pops multiple cards on the field and just a really good boss monster to be able to summon out to our side of the field. We then play a single copy of Appaloosa. Appaloosa is amazing to be able to summon to have multiple monster negates on the field just to help us go in for game on the follow-up. We then play a single copy of Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. This card is great as a one-of in the build. This is almost like a towers-like boss monster, because if this card is link summoned using a level 7 or higher monster as a material, which is very easy to do with cards like Gizmek Orochi, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, and it cannot be destroyed by our opponent's card effects either. And when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can activate one of these effects to basically increase this card's attack by 1500, and attack a second time during the following battle phase, or non-targeting banish a card off the field, which are usually either boosting this card's attack points up by 1500, making it 45, or non-targeting banishing a card off the field. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn. Unicorn's really good at spinning cards off the field. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Phoenix. Nightmare Phoenix is really good just as a one-of in the deck to basically just pop spells and traps. We then play a single copy of SP Little Knight. You could play a copy of Nightmare Cerberus over this card if you want to, but it's really good to be able to play in the deck as a double interruption. We then play a single copy of IP Masquerena. IP is really good to go in for a copy of Underworld Goddess, or copy of Nightmare Unicorn, or even SP Little Knight during the opponent's turn. Since we are playing a level 1 in the form of Eater of Millions, we're also playing Relinquished Anima to be able to gobble up our opponent's monsters. And for our super poly targets, we're playing a single copy of Mud Dragon, one copy of Garua, a single copy of Dracostapalia, and one copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, which you could play more in the extract if you wanted to drop SP Little Knight or any of the other expensive cards in the extract. You can drop them for more copies of super poly targets if you feel the need to, just for more budget plays. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played a Gandora deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's super fun to be able to play, and it's absolutely amazing to be able to OTK your opponent with Yu-Gi-Oh's most classic boss monster, played by none other than Yu-Gi-Moto himself, Gandora, the Dragon of Destruction. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell and there's so you can become part of Notification Squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.